Welcome to the Columbus Area United Way Connecting Community podcast. This is where we interview local nonprofit leaders and explore how we can collaborate to have a thriving community. Well, welcome to Columbus Area United Way Connecting Community. I'm here with Jonathan Niles with Royal Family Kids. So, Jonathan, welcome.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here today.
Glad to be here.
So, Royal Family Kids, I know that this started as a passion of yours years ago, but before we really dive into that, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you really came into being a part of Royal Family Kids.
Cool. So I was born and raised here in Columbus, have strong connections here with the community. I worked with the YMCA for a number of years. That was kind of my first professional career was with the YMCA. So I was kind of dove into the nonprofit sector right away after high school and college. And anyway, we lived in Scottsbluff, and I worked for the YMCA out there for a while. And then I got an opportunity to work out here in the YMCA. And then in the midst of that, I always had a heart for kids, and especially for hurting kids. I worked with Corey Briggs with the YMCA, but then also with the I Can camps, which is he serves with United Way, and then also through the YMCA. And I did that when the early stages of those camps and everything. And in college, I met my wife, and she asked me one time if I would be a prayer partner for her for something called Royal Family Kids Camp. And I'm like, well, what's that? And she explained it to me a little bit, and we can get into that too as well. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to do that. And so, and at that time we weren't dating or anything, that we were friends, and we get a lot of guff for that. We were just
you were
friends.
Just friends, right?
Yeah.
What is just friends?
Yeah, and now married for 21 years. So yeah, it worked out well. And anyway, we got into that, and I found out about the ministry. I never served with her during college. I served with her on the sidelines as a prayer partner. And then we decided after college, after we got married, that we wanted to start a chapter of our own. And I really didn't know what that meant. And we went to this week-long training. We found out it was in Omaha area, and they're usually on the coast somewhere. And the fact that it was close to us, we had just had Emily, our 16-year-old now, and we were kind of like, she's not even one. But we did it. We jumped off, and we said, let's go do this. And we did this week-long training. And after that week-long training, Hope, I'll tell you, I was like, what have we done?
What have we gotten ourselves into?
Exactly. And my wife's like totally like, no, we got this. This is fine. And I'm like, were you there this last week?
Did you hear
what's going on? What we have to do? And so that first year, like after that training, then the next year you have to prepare for the first year of camp. That was intense. Just the amount of money you need to raise, and the people you need to raise up, and the kids you need to find, and all the hoops you have to jump through to get foster kids to come to your camp. It was intense, but God was faithful through all of that. And there were some definite trials and things. I want to say have gotten easier over the last 16 years, but they're better. You learn the groove, I guess, but it's still very much a passion of ours and what we do. And we've really gotten to know the foster community here in town. And I saw a couple of our kids just this week, and just to see them light up when they see us in the store. And then you can just, I don't know, when you know the foster families, you can sit and just talk with them and say hello and catch up a little bit. And it's awesome. It's so much fun.
So those that really aren't familiar with Royal Family Kids and what it is and what you provide, can you tell those audience members that might be tuning in, what does Royal Family Kids do? What does it look like, and the impact that it makes?
Awesome. So Royal Family Kids is a ministry to abused, neglected, and abandoned kids in the foster system. We don't always say in the foster system, because there's a lot of times we have documented cases that they don't necessarily quite get to the foster care placement yet, but they have that documented case, and we take those kids as well. And sometimes they might outnumber the amount of foster kids we have. So Royal Family Kids was originally planted in California as a camp, and a resident camp for these kiddos ages 7 to 11, boys and girls. And then they spread out throughout the nation and actually the world now as well.
Wow.
And so I think the second camp in the entire organization is Hastings. And that's kind of the people who founded that camp are kind of our mentors as well. I'm getting a lot of bunny trails here, so sorry to the audience here. But Royal Family Kids, in an essence, we serve these kids at 7-Eleven. We go out to camp for 5 days. It's a burden-free camp, meaning we do not charge the kiddos anything. We don't charge the families anything. One, we want the kids to come out to camp. We want them to be a kid. They've
Mhm.
experienced things as kiddos that we as adults have never experienced
Mhm.
and been forced to grow up at a very quick rate. Um, and so we want them to come to camp and we want them to enjoy being a kid, burden free on them.
Mhm.
And then also burden free for our foster families and our even bio families. We want them to have respite that week. We want them to, we don't want you to worry about money. If your kids have terrible shoes and you don't have money to pay for those, we will get your kids a new pair of shoes. We'll take care of that as well. We want to make sure that it's as easy as possible for them to give a yes. My kid can come to camp,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it's a great week. It's challenging, as you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
as might wonder at some of these kiddos. They have behaviors that can be tough because they have experienced things that are terrible.
Mhm.
And so some things come out within that. One of the key things I remember in Royal Family, so I don't take things personally when these things happen, is an overreaction is an old reaction.
Mm.
And so it's usually not personal when these things happen. And we try to train our staff that way as well. And
Right.
so, real quick, I mean, you might have another question for me, but to kind of give one more key thing about Royal Family is we're not your typical camp. We don't have one counselor for like 10 kids or 8 kids or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that, but these kids, like we mentioned before, have special needs,
Right.
and so we want to treat them as royally as possible. And so we have one, we call them a big camper with 2 little campers,
Mhm.
and then every big camper has a relief counselor as well. So typically at a camp we outnumber the kiddos.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so
And
uh,
that's intentional for the
it's
purpose. Yeah.
100% intentional. And then we're set up as a family. We have a grandma and grandpa, we have an aunt and
I love that.
uncle, we have all these things, and those people, their roles are exactly what you expect. Grandma and grandpa take kids fishing and they give them
Mhm.
hugs, and their
Mhm.
grandma and grandpa.
Mhm.
Aunt and uncle, they give snacks, and
Mhm.
it's exactly how you would view your aunt and uncle or grandma and grandpa. It's the
Mhm.
exact same thing. So
Mhm.
we're set up in that way. We're a very relational camp to make these kids feel very much at home.
Mhm.
So
And I know, I mean, one of the things that I've heard you talk about in regards to the camp that you also celebrate birthdays there. Can you
yeah.
tell a little bit about what that looks like and why you do that?
Yeah, for sure. So birthday party is a great night at camp. It's probably a highlight for a lot of the kids. And I'll give you kind of more fresh example this last
Mhm.
year.
Mhm.
We've changed it over the years on how we approach birthday party. And then this year we have usually somebody come out and then they're in charge of the birthday party, a volunteer. And so this year the theme was like ice cream. And
Mm,
so
yum.
everything, yeah, I know, right? So everything was centered around ice cream. All the decorations, everything that we did was centered around the theme of ice cream. And so we have a typical kiddo birthday party with a theme.
Mhm.
And then we have like a dinner that's a kiddo birthday party dinner, like pizza and French fries, and things that's just a
Good
fun,
stuff.
good stuff. They're like comfort food.
Right.
And then that evening, we go out and we had a big birthday party bash out on the baseball field. And we had inflatables and a dunk tank and a water balloon launcher.
Oh my
And
gosh.
like it was an all out craziness. And then the kiddos get a hop from one place to the next and
Mhm.
they get to choose what they want to do. And we want to go dunk such and such. The kiddos, we have a couple of younger counselors that we're learning this year, and they were my volunteers because the end of May is still not quite warm yet. So a lot of my
Yeah.
older big campers are like, I ain't getting in that dunk tank. But my teenagers are like, woohoo, let's go. They might have been regretting that by the
Yeah.
end, but
I'm frozen
I
now.
know, right?
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And then what we do is we have all the gifts. So, like a birthday party, you
Mhm.
get a
Mhm.
gift. And
Mhm.
in the past, we've had donations of just lots of different things. And we learned that when gifts aren't the same, and this is probably for most kids, there's a lot of fighting and other things like, oh, I want that. My gift stinks, that kind of
Mhm.
deal. And it's totally not what we want to happen.
Mhm.
So everybody's gift is exactly the same, So they got like a
Nice.
beach towel with goggles and some games, and then they got like a fun ice cream thing. It was all ice cream
Ice cream
related,
later.
yeah, type stuff.
Awesome.
So fun pair of socks. that kind of deal. But
Mhm.
that some of the things differed, but they still were very much the same. And we found that there's a lot less competition as far as I got this and you didn't type deal. But they get that as they go back to their cabin. So when they get back to their cabin after their huge bash, they get to go to their cabin and their gift is waiting for them on their bed, and they get to sit and open
Mm.
their gift and enjoy those before they get ready for bed.
Nice.
So,
But the reason you do that, why do you have the birthday party? I
so
mean,
we do that because a lot of these kids haven't had the opportunity to have a birthday
yeah.
party. We've had kids that come out to camp that don't remember when their birthday is
Mhm.
because of that reason, because their birthday is not celebrated.
Mhm.
That's not the norm, but
Mhm.
I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. We don't have that all the time, but we've had that happen. But we want to make sure that they're celebrated,
Mhm.
that you matter and
Mhm.
your birthday is special, and we
Mhm.
want this day to be special for you. So
Mhm.
that's why we do it.
So, I mean, Royal Family Kids Camp is so much more than, I mean, just a camp. It really is a camp on steroids. I don't know what
Oh
I
yeah,
say. I
that we
mean,
say
you
that a
go
lot.
above and beyond
Mhm.
to make sure that these kids who have gone through trauma have experienced and witnessed things, like you said, that you or I have not, and that's impacting them, right? That
Mhm.
you want to just take a week and be able to just love upon them and fill them up and let them know that they matter.
Yes.
I know you've been doing it for several years, right?
Mhm.
16 years
Yeah, this
essentially now?
if you count COVID, this was 15 this
Okay.
last year,
Okay.
but 14 under our belts of actually having camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, is there, I know that there's so many success stories, but
Mhm.
if you could just pick one, what would that one be? And can you tell us about that?
Oh man, there's so many. I think about even this last year and some of our return kiddos that came, and you saw the growth in them
Mm,
from 2 years
mhm,
ago to now. But there's one in particular that always pulls in my heart because it was so special to me. And you've probably heard this story, but there's probably many that haven't heard this. But I had a young lady come out to camp, and we're close with this foster family, and we knew that week that she had to go to court,
mm.
and she had to testify against her biological mother. And just think about that for a second. That's got to be hard. And this is like a 9, 10-year-old girl. That's something none of us want to deal with, let alone a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old.
Right.
So all week long leading up to this day, she was just, I don't know, she wasn't bad or anything like that. But you could tell she was down
Mhm,
and just struggling a little bit. One day she kind of broke out in some hives.
mm,
She was stressed out.
mhm,
you know.
mhm.
Anyway, she we got a phone call the morning of that this was supposed to happen, and foster mom said, "Hey, she, I got a phone call, and mom has given up all rights to us, and we have full adoption rights."
Wow.
I'm like, "She doesn't have to go to court," and she goes, "Yeah, she doesn't have to go to court." I said, "Well, let me go find her," and she goes, "No, I want you to tell her." And so it always gets at me. It makes me emotional because that was special.
Wow.
The foster mom trusted me enough to give
Mhm,
that emotional news to this girl.
mhm.
But then telling that girl, and oh my gosh, you should have seen her, just the release, like, oh,
I'm sure her
you
full
know,
countenance changed,
oh
right?
yes,
Yeah.
like throughout the entire week. I mean, I think we had 2.5 more days of camp after that.
Wow.
And the rest of that week, man, you could just tell a burden had lifted,
Mm,
and she was able to be a kid and able to
mm,
be herself. It was so special. And at the end of the
mhm.
week, big hugs and everything like that. The coolest part was, and this is like fast forward now 13 years or whatever it's been, 10 years since I
Yeah.
saw her. And then we were at the YMCA. That's when I worked there doing front desk and stuff.
Mhm.
And I saw this girl doing COVID checks. I'm like, man, I really recognize her, but she was a lot older. And she came over to me and she goes, "Do you remember me?" And I looked at her and I said her name and she goes, "Yep." And I go, "Oh my goodness." And we had this awesome conversation and how she's going into
Oh,
healthcare and
wow.
yeah, and she's all grow up. So one, it was super special to have that connection with her
Yeah.
again, and we both remembered what happened out at
Mhm,
camp and how
mhm,
special that was.
mhm.
But just for her to come over and share that with me and where she's at with life now, and she's doing so well, and it
That's
was
amazing.
special.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Royal Family does so much. I mean, not only for the campers themselves, but also for the volunteers. I mean, we know when you give and you serve, you get so much more in return. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh, absolutely.
Last question.
Yeah,
I've been asking everyone this. So the world of nonprofit, right, is
hmm
always fun, and you're always carrying many hats, as you
yeah.
know. But if you were to share either what is your current favorite author at the moment, or what is your go-to karaoke song if you were to ever karaoke, even if that means in the shower or the car by yourself?
Oh man. So I love music, so that to try to pick,
Yeah, what would you
oof.
pick? Can you?
I don't know if I can. Jeez, that's tough. I love the band Need to Breathe. I don't know if you know Need to.
Yes, I
I
do.
love Need to Breathe. They're one of my absolute favorite bands,
Mhm.
and they sing so many songs that are so great. But I don't even
So Need to
know.
Breathe, and
Need
then
to Breathe.
author, you got an author?
Yeah, there's several authors out there that I really enjoy. I'm currently in seminary and I'm getting my master's
Oh, I
degree.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm done in December, so 2.5 years
Wow.
of going through this, and I'm excited. I'm getting my biblical counseling master's, so it's basically to help me be better at what I do. You know,
Nice.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I've done a lot of reading,
Yes, I
a
bet.
whole lot of reading. But I'd say one of my favorite authors, the one that keeps popping in my head, is Kevin DeYoung. I don't know if you know
I've
Kevin
heard him.
DeYoung,
Mhm,
but he's a pastor. He's over in I think North Carolina or something like
mhm,
that. But he's also a writer and he's written several books. But what I love about Kevin DeYoung is he writes about very specific topics, but he's also incredibly funny and he's relational and he's easy to read. I've
mhm.
read so many books, especially in the seminary world, that are crazy academic, and I'm like, you can't relate to it. And then at times you're looking up words like what?
What? I need
Right,
some
right.
liaison correlation. What does this
Right,
mean,
right.
right? Yeah.
But Kevin DeYoung is very
Ties
easy to
in the
read.
humor.
Oh, humorous, and he's just relational. He's like, oh, you can be like, oh yeah, that's definitely me, you know. So he has some great books out there that I
I'll have
really
to look
enjoy.
him up.
Yeah, he's really good.
Awesome.
So
Well, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for all that you do for the
thank
community.
you.
Thank you for keeping on that track with your wife and not walking away after you went to the first training in Omaha and bringing Royal Family Kids to our community, because I know lives have been impacted and continued to be impacted because of the work you provide. So
Well, thank
thank you.
you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.